We're live.
At some point, can you give a little update about the new open meeting law requirement going forward? Okay. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the September meeting of the Albany Public Library Board of Trustees. It is 6:03, and I will call this meeting to order. In lieu of a roll call, I thought it would make sense for me to just announce who's here and not here, or just announce who's not here. So I just want to note that all trustees are present except for Sarah Masinski, who will be joining us momentarily. And so that moves us on to public comment. Is there any public comment at this time?
There was no public comment received.
Right. Thank you. And so we will move on to agenda item number 3, the consent agenda. Do trustees have any questions on the consent agenda? Minutes or the check register? All right, hearing none, I will take a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Thank you, Jare. Is there a second?
I second the emotion.
Thank you, Bridget.
Emotion.
All in favor?
Works too, Bridget.
All in favor of accepting? Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. Agenda item number 4, the finance report. Are we prepared to turn it over to Adam and Sean virtually? All right, take it away. Adam and Sean, can you hear us?
We can hear you okay.
Okay, whenever you guys are ready, it is time for the finance report.
Okay. Good evening. The reports this month cover July, which was the first month of our 22-23 fiscal year. As of the end of July, both our revenue and expenditure totals represent approximately 8% of what was budgeted for. Relatively significant amounts of the IT and occupancy cost budgets were spent during the month. And just to note, the format of the capital fund report has changed slightly. The expense budgets listed for Washington and North Albany represent the amounts that were budgeted for last year, but have not yet been spent, as the projects are still ongoing. So I'll let Adam fill in some of the details.
Okay, thank you, Sean. So just a couple of quick notes. So the IT services line does contain expenses related to annual service contracts. Our national grid bills for July were far higher than what we've seen in past years. Several large building repair expenses were incurred during July, so that is the reason why those 3 lines do seem a little high this month. And the upcoming budget modification process will address the issues we are seeing with these particular areas of budget. So if anyone has any questions for me or Sean, be happy to answer those. Thanks.
Any questions from trustees? All right. Then we will move on to committee and liaison reports. First is trustees reporting out. Did anybody attend any events that they want to share with the group? Well,
Oh, go ahead. I'll let you go ahead.
I attended one, I believe. It was the ribbon cutting for the school attached to the North Albany branch. It was a really good event. Andrea and I were there along with a couple library staff, and we got to talk to some good people. We got to tour the school a little bit. It was a great event.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I met Superintendent Adams, and there were a number of representatives from the school. And we also got a private tour of the school. Well, it wasn't really private. It was at a public event, but it felt like a special tour for us. It was great. It's a beautiful facility.
Any others?
Yes, I usually go to the story time with my son. That's always a good experience. We always have a lot of fun, go to the park afterward. I also went to represent the Black Nurses Coalition. We were at New Jerusalem's Home Community Block Party. And there I saw Albany Public Library there representing. So that was very nice to see them engage in the community as well as along with the Black Nurses Coalition. So that was definitely a fun event. We had a good time and got to meet a lot of good people. So that was definitely a nice Saturday well spent. So.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Second up is the Upper Hudson.
I was going to add,
Oh,
I'll
sorry,
add
Paige.
something.
Please.
It's less attending an event, so much as participating in a program. So I participated in summer reading. So I got a t-shirt, very exciting. So every year I like to, sport my new graphic tee. So I'm very excited for my lime green pedestrian safe t-shirt.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, that's clear.
Yeah, synergy.
And I wanted to add, so I, two things. One, I attended an event where the library was recognized as a community partner for the Albany City School District and received an award. So that was very, very nice. And I came into this branch to check out books. And I want to say that one of the staff members, I don't remember her name, but she's very, very pleasant. I didn't identify myself other than giving her my library card, but she really helped me. I had a whole bunch of questions just about just how the setup was, because it definitely looks a little bit different after COVID. She was very, very sweet, very helpful, very nice. She sits right at the front, at the lower computer. So she's usually I've come in like twice and she's still the same one. And I think her name begins with a D, but I'm horrible with names, so I could be wrong. But I just wanted to say that was very, very pleasant to see.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
I said next, so yeah, the block party.
Oh, at the Black Party. That's right, I did. I went to the community block party as well. Thank you.
All right. Next is our Upper Hudson report.
Okay, we did not meet last month. We are meeting twice this month. I had a service committee meeting last week where we looked at construction grants that have been submitted by the branches. So we did that, and our first meeting for this season will be tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, Arlene. And next is the Facilities Committee report.
Okay, we met on last Tuesday, which was I believe the 6th. And myself, Paige, Annette Robinson also attended, as well as Andrea and the facilities manager, Adam Firebog. And we'll be discussing this later in new business about the construction grant. But we wanted to make a recommendation, was brought to our attention that the construction grant is usually submitted in the spring. However, due to the circumstances, surrounding COVID and everything like that, that UHL was encouraging all libraries to apply for the grant. So the grant will be submitted in 6 separate applications, as explained by Executive Director, and the grant ranges from 90 to 75% reimbursement. You all should have received an email in reference to that. And then we also had several questions in regarding. Paige asked after the lighting projects with the LEDs, she had some environmental concerns on how the current lighting will be retired. So the Andrea had answered that the vendor would dispose of the lighting in a responsible environmental way, but that question will be also revisited at that time once the vendor is selected. 3 bids are required. Also, Paige also asked how it was going to be distributed, how will it be determined, what branches get the project if not approved. And we were reassured that there is no scenario where a project will not be funded. The only question is if it will be 90% or 75% funded. So the track record or the AHL's, APL's track record is very high on approvals. So it's no questions with that or concerns. So also the benefits of the project was the initial savings of the project. At this time, with this branch, Washington Avenue, that it's 11 cents kilowatts. So Washington Avenue uses 266,130 kilowatts. By changing to the LED lighting, this usage would decrease to 99,369 kilowatts monthly. So a very significant change. Also in dollar and cents, at the current time, Washington Avenue's projected expenditure is $14,637.18 a month. Utilizing the LEDs would decrease the monthly bill to $5,465.30. So again, an increased energy savings will increase over time, 5 to 9 years. So as you said, if you do the numbers, that is, definitely cost effective and also beneficial in a better product. So a motion was recommended to submit the construction grant to the full board. And again, we can discuss that further in new business. We adjourned at 6:19. So it was a quick, fast, to the point meeting.
That's the way we like it. Thank you. All right, we will move on to our director's report now.
All right, so it was a really eventful first month at APL. I'm delighted still to be here. I'll try to breeze through this summary at the top as quickly as possible. I did include way too many outreach items. In the future, I'll probably be summarizing that part, but I did want you to see that I'm out and about meeting people and trying to, get the lay of the land in Albany. So it's been a really fantastic month. I see a lot of evidence of passion and commitment to library work among the staff, which Andrea referenced earlier with our excellent customer service. Under services and programs, our summer reading program has drawn to a close with about 1,200 participants, which amounts to about 98,000 pages read, because of course we count every single one that anyone reads. The Centennial Committee also met on the 31st of August to resume our discussions. So celebrations will begin in May of 2023 and play out throughout summer reading 2023 and wrap up with a major celebration in October 2023. And you'll be hearing much more about that later as plans evolve. Under operations, we did have a power outage at Howe on the 17th, which forced an early closure. I emailed the board about that. Moving on to North Albany, we had a meeting about the grand opening steps and timeline. So I do want you to reserve the date of October 10th as our soft opening, if you care to check it out on our soft opening day, although we'll be running around making sure everything is working on that day. We will be having a grand opening celebration on October 19th from 4 to 7. So that's the date to really kind of circle in your calendar, October 19th, 4 to 7. Our automatic doors were successfully installed at Arbor Hill West Hill, and they're functioning well. And then I again listed a lot of outreach opportunities that I had over the course of the month. If you look at the back page of my report, you'll see 6 pictures of me with staff at various locations of APL. I had a fantastic time touring the branches during my first month. Among outreach activities, let's see. Oh, I do want to mention that strategic planning focus group dates and retreats were confirmed and invitations went out. And a number of focus groups have already taken place over the course of this week among staff and for the public. So our consultant is busy collecting great feedback about APL services for the next few years. So had the farmer's market visit on my second day of work. I want to thank Melanie for also attending an open house of New York Library Association with me and meeting the staff there. They will be important partners for us in terms of advocacy efforts as well as support for our library. FFAPL hosted the Keep Albany Connected laptop giveaway and barbecue and tabling event in the community room at Ezra Prentice. That was a great opportunity for me to meet representatives from a number of community organizations. I also attended Downtown Neighborhood Association meeting on the 23rd, where I met Tony Opalka, who's Albany historian. I see a lot of nodding heads, yes. And a number of other local history experts, including Kim Parker and Catherine Costo. I also attended the ribbon cutting at North Albany, as mentioned before, and the grand opening of the Historic Albany Foundation's Tool Library, and met Pamela Howard and their board president. And I mean, it was a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun. I don't think every month is going to be quite the whirlwind of fun and activity that this was, but it gave me a great impression of Albany. It gave me a great impression of the library's connections to Albany. And I'm just, filled with excitement for the future. So that kind of does it for the summary. And there's, of course, a lot more to the report, but if you have questions, please feel free. Thank you.
Any questions? All right. So then, and any questions on this, the statistics, 6.2? All right, then we will move on to 6.3, which is an update on our administrative assistant job posting.
Thanks. I do want to shout out the statistics. Our circulation continues to rise, and we are definitely exceeding pre-pandemic levels of circulation or close to it in many locations. So that's a really exciting, yes, thank you. Yes, applause. So we're excited about that. Okay, moving on to the admin assistant position. So I did share a memo with you about a week, September 7th. And I also shared the civil service description of the administrative assistant position, which is not changing for this new arrangement of the position. In the memo, I took you through, first I thanked you for supporting this reinvented full-time admin assistant role that includes clerical duties for the board, as well as admin duties for the library. And went on in the memo to describe the scope of duties for the full-time admin position and how they relate to the civil service job description. And then I kind of interlaced the ways in which the civil service job description relates to the library work that they will be doing. So under each bolded section of this job description is listed some examples of how this person will support library work. This person will be reporting to me, and it'll be my responsibility to ensure that the admin assistant carries out the duties related to supporting board functions. Typical work activities. You know what? I'm going to skip this part and just send you right to the end of the document, which shows the breakdown of the projected time allocation. We based these time allocations on our interviews with the various library leadership team members who are going to be relying on this person, in addition to myself and you, which are the director of finance and our HR director. So as you can see from this pie chart, the majority of this person's time will be devoted to helping us manage the human resources of the library. This person will take on about 10% of their time for board activities, which does relate exactly to that 20-hour estimate, 20-hour per week estimate, which was the maximum estimate included in the part-time board clerk job posting. So that's how we came up with that as a proportion of time. So going back to the specific duties, I mean, I want to thank you for going through this memo, which I shared in advance. And I actually invite you to ask any questions that you have about the highlighted sections that relate to the board support, because I highlighted all of the ways that the board support relates to the position in yellow in this memo document.
question from Sarah.
What's the work week, 37 and a half?
37 and a half hours.
So how does 10% fit into 37 and a half?
Well, it's just 10% of the total time for, we're really not thinking that this will be a daily kind of apportionment. It'll be more like overall. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking the question. And yeah, we were kind of looking at their week / their year as this, the basis of this sort of allocation.
And like we've discussed it, probably some weeks there'll be very little board work and other weeks there'll be more. So it will ebb and flow. I wanted to ask about the timeline for getting the job posting up now.
As soon as possible. Right after, I mean, basically right after this meeting, we'll go into motion with posting the position. It was important, obviously, to share the details of how this position will support the board and the library before moving forward with the job post, but we're ready to post as soon as possible. And I would imagine that it would take the normal course. It would be posted for however many weeks we normally post a job for. And I think if you have more specific questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them, but I might need some help from Melanie to answer them. But yes, as soon as we can, because obviously it's not ideal at this moment to for us to be kind of juggling, you know, I mean, I've been, thank you to Bridget for taking the minutes for the finance committee, but excuse me, facilities committee, but of course this person in the future will be there to help with minutes and posting minutes and all of the board docs fun that we have. So yeah, we're very eager to fill this position as soon as we can.
Okay.
No, go, no, please.
So I know that we had some discussion regarding salary last time. Is the salary staying the same, or did we look at increasing it?
We're still determining the range, but it will be based on what we find to be a comparable or competitive salary for an admin assistant that obviously doesn't rise above any level that would be inappropriate for it to rise above at the library.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so as reminders, since we're not making any changes to the job description, we don't, as a board, we don't need to take a vote on it tonight. And the library can get the job posting up without our vote. Are there other questions on this? All right, well, thank you, Andrea, and we look forward to seeing that.
Thank you.
I know. Okay, so now we'll move on to agenda item 7.1, which is the informational memo that I put together in between our meetings, just because I had a lot of thoughts going around in my head, and I wanted to put them on paper since we have a bunch of new board members and we're back in person for the first time in a while. So I wrote this to be kind of a place that you can refer back to if needed. There's a couple hyperlinks to our Google Drive and our Google Calendar that I use often. So I encourage you to bookmark those. The Google Calendar, if you don't already know or don't already have it, tracks all of our committee meetings and board meetings. There is a way to import it from your APL only calendar into your regular Google Calendar. And that's what I have done, and it's a big help. So if you need to know how to do that, you can ask me, or I'm sure Melanie or someone else will also be able to help too. So if you're interested, like even today after the meeting, we're happy to stick around and make that happen. And then I won't go through the whole memo, but I will highlight a couple of things that I don't think we've talked about since our new year has begun. One is if you have questions if you're reviewing the agenda before a meeting and you have questions, we really encourage you to email those questions to us ahead of time. That's something we've done in the past as a board, and it's really helpful for the executive director and the board president to anticipate those questions so that we can bring the best answer to the meeting and that we're not answering on the fly. So when you look over the agenda, please don't hesitate to send us our questions. We might not respond with a substantive answer to the email, but we'll say, thanks for the question, and we'll answer it during the meeting when everybody is here to hear the answer. So that's incredibly helpful. And the only other thing I wanted to flag is on the board portal, our Google Drive, I really encourage you all to save your committee meeting minutes there, save any documents that you create during meetings or in between meetings on the drive. Each committee has a folder where that stuff can go. And it's just really good to get in the habit of doing that so that the trustees who come after us in the future can look back and refer to our documents and know where to find them. So if you have questions on how to use that, also please don't hesitate to reach out to me either. And that is pretty much what I wanted to say about that. Are there questions about what's in this memo? All right, thank you. So at this time, it's not on our agenda, but I thought this would be a good moment in the meeting for Bob to just give us a quick update on the very recent changes to open meetings law executive orders.
So if anybody was following the news yesterday, there was much ado about the fact that the governor did not renew her executive order, which means that the executive order related to the COVID state of emergency in the state of New York expired at 11:59 p.m. midnight last night. That's relevant for the board because it was that executive order 11.9 as extended, that contained the extension of the open meetings law video conferencing remote meetings provision and allowed public bodies to meet wholly remotely during the course of the state of emergency. As you all recall, a couple of months ago, we passed a resolution in anticipation of the end of the executive order because the legislature amended the open meetings law back at the end of the session to allow a new, slightly more permissive use of video conferencing than the old open meetings law allowed, but still not as permissive as what the executive order was doing. So as of now, we can no longer meet remotely in total as we could under the executive order. The only remote meetings or video conferencing that is allowed is in accordance with the resolution that we passed, I think it was 2 months ago at this point. Some highlights of that. In a month where we anticipate needing to have one or more trustees participating by video conference, we're going to have to notice the meeting in that manner. Right now, this meeting was not noticed as a video conference meeting because we didn't know the state of the executive order. We'll have to get the reason for that. And I think if I remember correctly, we changed the notice period down to 24 hours. So as long as we have at least 24 hours advance notice from a trustee, we can change the notice of the meeting to include video conferencing in the case of emergency. Still don't have any more real clarity on what the courts and or the Committee on Open Government are going to say in extraordinary circumstances, but we did include some examples in our resolution. Somebody has a personal illness that it wouldn't be wise for them to come to an open meeting. Someone is out of town on a business trip that they couldn't plan around, but are otherwise able to participate, things of that nature. I think we'll have to sort of figure that out a little bit as we go along. But basically, if you know that you're going to not be at a particular meeting, but could participate if we were able to do a video conference, I think you need to let Tom and Andrea know as much in advance as you can, so that as we're setting up the meeting for the following month, we can make appropriate arrangements for that. But that's where we are. You're in good shape because you've got your resolution passed, but now we just have to sort of figure out the logistics of how we'll do this from month to month.
On Friday, there's going to be a webinar with the Assistant Director of the Open Meetings for Government. And that might be helpful to give us a little bit more.
Great. Thanks. No, that's really helpful. Thank you.
I'm actually taking that webinar just to educate myself. So yeah, I'll report back anything that could be relevant or useful for the board.
Yeah, it does. Our resolution says that it can be extended if the statute.
All right. No, go ahead.
Since the quorum is 2, committee meetings are also subject to open meeting if you have.
Take this back to you. The library has made the decision that you treat your committee meetings as open meetings. We've talked about this ad nauseum as to whether you have to do that or not, but that's what you've decided to do. So your committee meetings need to follow the same rules.
So committee meetings are in person. And how is so I have a whole bunch of questions regarding committee meetings, and maybe we can just flesh it out. So how is the location for the committee meeting determined? How often do the committee meetings meet? Can we get a little bit more clarity?
Yeah. So summer is our slower time for committee meetings usually. So that's why we haven't had too many so far this year. Typically, all our committee meetings take place at the Washington Ave branch, sometimes in this room, sometimes in another room. And your other question was, how often do they meet? They kind of meet on an as needed basis. And it's a little different with every committee. Like the finance committee will meet often when we're preparing our annual budget. The personnel committee will meet whenever a personnel matter creates the need for a meeting. In policy and governance, they kind of meet regularly to review policies according to a schedule. So each committee kind of has its own plan. When the need arises, staff usually picks up on that needs and lets us know that something needs to be voted on. And so then it's the chair's job to kind of coordinate that meeting and make it happen. Sarah.
So along with this learning about how the committees work, we will find out when our committees are meeting because we will be emailed. Are we supposed to be checking somewhere?
Yes. Always check your email, please. If you can do it every day, that's super helpful.
Anywhere besides the email?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll get someone will reach out to you to schedule it to make sure you're available before just picking a random time. We make an effort to make sure every committee member can attend the meeting before we set the time, and then you'll get a calendar invite, etc., just like a regular board meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One of the things that we could consider is I could make a recommendation. I know it's really helpful to plan in advance when you want to be part of a committee and contribute. One of the things I could do is work with staff to come up with a proposed calendar year of committee meetings for those that have to meet more regularly anyway. I don't know if that is going to be the right way to approach this issue of calendaring and anticipating meetings. I mean, I understand that it was like a different world when we could all meet virtually, and going back to in-person meetings is like a big deal to arrange your life for. So I'm just thinking, like, for example, for policy and governance, like we have a number of policies that we can kind of slot in throughout the course of the year potentially. So we could come up with something like a proposed draft calendar if it would be helpful to the board. But I know that's not like something that you're prepared to decide now. So just putting it out there.
Been scheduled and then canceled and trying to fit it in the last moment. As we all do.
Well, I know for the nominating committee, we had come up with a schedule, based on the life cycle of the board. And so I would like to get back to looking at that and seeing how that would work.
Yeah, we can do that. Do you know where that's written down?
It should be in our folder, but if it isn't, I have a copy of those notes.
Okay.
So that is, so, okay.
Okay. Yeah. So we can look for it and email.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it would definitely be helpful just to email the chairs of the committee and see really what their thoughts are in reference to what schedule they had in mind or what typically they would want to ideally do with their committee.
Yeah. And that is the other thing I wanted to say about committees, is that if the committee chairs have ideas that they want to talk about in a committee, don't be afraid to ask for a meeting. You can do that as the chair. So just come talk to me and talk to Andrea about things you might want to meet on, and we can make that happen. All right.
Can I put a plug about APL emails? Why that's really, really important.
Yes.
So everyone has been issued an APL email account for your board service and your work on the board. And as your counsel, I cannot stress to you enough how important it is that you make use of that as your means of communication with respect to APL business. Because you will from time to time receive a FOIL request where some member of the public, a media source, someone else with some interest in knowing will subpoena emails of board members. And if it's all on your APL email account, we'll give them what we give them subject to exceptions under FOIL. But if you're using a personal email account, if Brigitte, I'm going to pick on you, if you're using bprior@nicap.rr.com and that FOIL request comes in, I have to say to you, Brigitte, I need access to your personal email account so I can do this FOIL recovery on your personal email account. And you can't even imagine how embarrassing that can be when someone asks for emails related to such topic and your personal email gets foiled. I've had it happen to clients. It's horrifically problematic. Please, 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 please use your APL email account for APL business. Okay, it's really for your own protection and to save that incredibly uncomfortable doctor's appointment from being disclosed, or some private conversation with your spouse, things like that. It can really, really, really go to a dark and ugly place. All right.
If you're included, not that we want to drown your email address inbox, is there client privilege you're included in the?
It would at least give you an argument. It really depends on the nature of the subject and the topic. But as a general rule, you don't want to just copy the lawyer just to try and put privilege around something. But if we're talking about a privileged issue, or if there's an issue matter of litigation or a legal issue before the board, then absolutely your conversation should include me so that we can.
Awesome. Anything else on this topic before we go to new business?
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. All right, then we will move to agenda item 8.1, our construction grant application. I don't know, do you want to talk about it, Andrea, or, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try not to repeat too much of what Brigitte has already shared about this application, but what we're looking for from the board is basically an adoption of the application. It's called an assurance, and it's some paperwork that's required for the applications that basically states that the board is aware of the library's application and that you have agreed to authenticate it. So has to be done at a legal meeting. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the project itself so that you're all aware of a little more of the detail, and then there would be a vote. So let's see. The proposed project, as Bridget stated, is an LED lighting project. You'll notice North Albany is not included, but it's because we don't actually manage that facility. So if LEDs are implemented by the school, I mean, it's probably already going to have LEDs because it's a new school, new facility, new library. So right now we use the older traditional lighting in our facilities, and as Bridget stated, we can gain energy savings and save money over time with this project. So it's slated for summer, fall of 2023, which places the capital cost in fiscal 24. And then I gave you some cost projections based on whether the grant comes in at 75% or 90%. So that's what that grid is about. The highlighted ranges are the ranges that Albany Public Library will be responsible for paying. And so it'll be somewhere between 30,000 and 75,000, depending on how many of the projects are approved at 90% or 75. So we're in good shape to hopefully gain a few at the 90% level. We did have to show DLD that Albany is an economically distressed city. And so that's part of the calculus that goes into how they distribute the funds. And that's obviously working out in our favor for this grant project, so that we hopefully get more of the grants at the 90% level. We'll find out about it in the spring. And so hopefully I'll have some happy news for you in the spring, and checks would be distributed next summer.
Still waiting for last year's. So just be aware, they have their own. DESNY hasn't approved all of the last year's grants yet.
Okay, thank you for that. We can always adjust our timeline accordingly if necessary, but we're hopeful that magically it works out on according to the timeline. We'll see, but we'll make adjustments if necessary. Thank you for that piece of information.
Thank you. What questions do trustees have about this, about our application? I was going to ask, I should have asked this beforehand, but I have like a memory that most of our buildings were LED LEED silver certified. Is that true, or did I make that up?
Yes. No.
Okay, I see. So
I don't think they had the extensive commercial lighting in LED format when we did, so we were certified to the standards they were, what, 15 years ago?
yeah. So yeah, I just didn't know if this would impact that certification or if that was important at all. And you don't have to answer now, but if you think you can look into it if it's valuable.
anything, it would improve our standing because it would make the buildings more energy efficient.
Yeah. All right, other questions? All right. Then we'll move on.
We need a motion
Oh, yes, we do.
to approve the grants as written.
Awesome. Sarah Dallas makes the motion. Is there a second?
I second Trustee West.
Do we need a second since the committee recommended already?
Thank you. So the facilities committee made the motion in their meeting. So they are the first on the motion, and we can make Sarah the second on the motion. All in favor of adopting the motion?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I need to give credit to Adam Firebar, our Director of Facilities. He helped put this together, and I never imagined that during my first month in this position, I would be applying for a construction grant, let alone 6 of them. So this is, the staff here are tremendous, and they helped a lot.
All right. So we will move on to agenda item 8.2, the revision of our schedule of service for 2022. You want to walk us through the change?
Sure. So in speaking with the staff, the leadership team, we were talking about the November 22nd all staff training day. And I would really like to do this training day at another time, and staff were very supportive of that for the reason, well, number one, closing 2 days during Thanksgiving week doesn't seem like a great way to serve the community during a holiday week. And I also worried that we would not have staff capacity to plan this day, given that we are down an admin assistant, that we are down some capacity due to my new arrival and not really having time to get a good plan together for this short order. So that said, we're obviously keeping the springtime staff development day on the books. Or excuse me, it already happened. What am I saying? This is 2022 we're looking at. So yeah, that was the main change. The other thing was just a correction. Pine Hills was listed as the location for the Literary Legends Gala. It is actually Delaware branch. Get your tickets now. So that's that.
All right. So are there any questions? If not, I will take a motion to approve this revised schedule.
I move that we approve the revised schedule of service for 2022.
Andrea makes the motion and Lynette seconds. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.3, adopting our schedule of service for calendar year 2023. Would you like to highlight this one?
Sure. So you'll notice that the April 2023 Staff Development Day is on this calendar of holidays. However, we'd like to, again, revisit the fall timing and decide on an alternate Staff Development Day. If we even choose to have an alternate, we'll think about when best to schedule that and adjust this schedule of service as needed. But there really aren't any other big surprises in this schedule of service. So once you've had a chance to, well, let me know if you have any questions.
Do you have one thing that was brought to my attention right at the beginning of the meeting from a staff member? We have a September 24th, the Sunday, this is for Yom Kippur, and September 25th is Yom Kippur observed. We were told, or the staff member informed us that Yom Kippur would actually start at sundown on the 24th. So we might not necessarily need to close on the 20th or the 24th, and the observed would be sufficient.
Okay, I'm prepared to make that amendment now, so that you can take a vote. So I guess the motion, I don't want to take words out of your mouth, but
So before we set that motion, are there any other questions on the calendar? Sarah?
I'm just curious why Yom Kippur was chosen and not another. I'm happy that it is, but are there other holy days from other besides Judeo-Christian?
we, this is just based on what was done last year. And I did not, we didn't discuss adding any other holidays. We try to look at the schools when we create this calendar. So we're always mindful that if the schools are closed on a particular holiday, the library we like to be open if we can to support the student population.
Yom Kippur holiday is one that was written into the contract. That was negotiated in the last round of negotiations with the union. And so that's why it was included. It was discussed other holidays at the time, but that was the one that was decided upon.
Thanks, Melanie. So it's contractual.
Just in the discussion, looking at 2024, there may be other holidays that we need to be cognizant of. I don't know when the contract is. I want to be inclusive to our larger community.
Understood. I think we feel a responsibility to, again, if the schools are closed, we are a place where people can be. So if there's a segment of the population that doesn't celebrate that particular holiday, they can still come to the library. So it's a balance, and it's not an easy one always, but we always want to support the community as much as we possibly can, as well as supporting our staff in holiday celebrations.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think Sarah makes a great point about thinking about the different things that folks celebrate, and that might be something to take maybe with, the focus groups that are happening with the library staff, because it's important that the folks who work here are supported and have what they need. And that eventually will, reflect the broader community as, people come and go. But, I think more than just saying, we're going to be closed because it's this holiday. If we don't have any staff that are celebrating that holiday, all that's doing is taking away the resource from the community. So I like the idea, but I think it's important that we use it judiciously.
Yeah, and again, that's where the balance comes in. And I think I want to also add that we support staff religious. If anybody needs to take a day for a religious holiday. Melanie?
So I wanted to speak to that. Previous iteration of the contract had 12 days throughout the year that we were closed. The last iteration of the contract, or the last negotiation, we reduced that to 8, and then included 4 floating holidays specifically for that reason. So staff who were celebrating alternative holidays or their personal holidays would be able to do so without impact to the community service.
Thanks, Melanie. And I saw Andrea.
Oh, that's actually pretty good. I'm good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all. All right, so I'll propose a motion with the amendment, and then I'll ask someone to make it. So we can entertain a motion to approve the 2023 schedule of service with the amendment that September 24th will not be a day we are closed. We will be open.
I'll second.
Do you want to make the motion?
Oh, sorry, I thought you just did make the motion. Yes, I will make the motion.
Sarah Masinski makes the motion. Will anyone second?
I'll second.
Paige seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries unanimously. All right. The next item on our agenda is the quarterly board evaluation. I did not prepare a graphic of the results because only 5 trustees responded. I would really encourage you guys to check the emails and make sure to respond to things like that. Feedback is important, and we do take it into account when we try to plan our meetings. So please do respond. Of the 5 people who did respond, the results were good. There was, I don't think, any needs improvement responses. So then we will move on. So we do have a need for an executive session tonight. But before we do, is there any public comment, or has any been received during the meeting, Melanie?
Let me check. Nope, none have been received.
All right, thank you. So as you can see in your board docs, the motion for executive session is there. Would anyone like to make a motion for the purpose stated in board docs?
I make a motion to go to executive session to discuss the media or medical, federal, federal, I can't even see, financial credit or of employment.
All right, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries unanimously.
Tom, we should update that motion, because I think the purpose of the executive session relates to collective bargaining, not the appointment of a particular person. Change that motion to clarify.
Okay. Do we have to revote, or can we just change it in the minutes?
I think that as long as everyone agrees that they want to go into executive session, I think we should just change it.
Okay, is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
All right,
Do
thank
we
you.
expect a vote to happen at the conclusion? Okay, then I can cut the live stream then.
Okay, yeah,
Executive session.
that sounds good.
I would state that for public.
Okay, for the folks listening on the live stream, we don't plan to take any more votes this evening. So we are going to end our live stream for the evening, and the remainder of our meeting will take place in executive session in person. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Adam. Have a good night.
Thank you, guys.
Good night.